So, folks, we're going to be honest with you. We just wrapped up the show, and Todd McClellan was fired literally 30 seconds after we hit end on the record. So, we're going to start the show with it because obviously it's the biggest news. Edmonton Oilers get a brand new coach in Ken Hitchcock, a very experienced guy. We talk about in this upcoming episode, John, a guy who's known to be a hard ass, a real tough defensive coach, and really that's going to change the whole outlook on this Edmonton Oilers team. This just happened. What are your first thoughts?
Wow, this always happens to us. That's my first thought. Like, Jimmy Butler gets traded a half an hour after we go off air, and then this happens literally like a minute after we stop recording. I'm glad that we're going to be able to talk about it, though. Todd McClellan always, to me, just kind of seemed like that meh coach. Even when he was with San Jose for so many years, he was just that guy. He was in California, and you kind of just forgot about him. And then he hasn't really done much with Connor McDavid. They made the playoffs the one year. They had a pretty good year, but I don't know. I think the Edmonton Oilers are definitely going to benefit from the structure of Ken Hitchcock. But I heard something interesting on the radio. It's like you could change the head coach all you want, but if you just hire him in your front office, then he's really going nowhere, a la Kevin Lowe and Craig McTavish and all these other guys. Daryl Cates just seems to be giving these other guys front office jobs, and they just don't ever go anywhere.
My first thought right now is I really hope I don't see Connor McDavid blocking shots and just being a full Ken Hitchcock hardo. If he's out there sliding head first to block shots with his face because Ken Hitchcock is screaming at him from the bench to do it, I don't know. And it's gonna toughen up the Edmonton Oilers. You can't fix what's broken. I just don't think they have enough talent around McDavid and Draisaitl, but this is certainly going to drastically switch the way they play. Ken Hitchcock is a guy who just grinds you down. It's not going to be fun. Don't expect to see the Edmonton Oilers playing run and gun hockey the rest of the year. This is going to be tough, though. My first thoughts, though, John, are that the first couple weeks in a coaching change, especially when it's so fresh and such a drastic shift, it's gonna get worse before it gets better for the Oilers as they get adjusted. But maybe this is the kick in the ass they need. But to me, this is more on management than it was on Todd McClellan. Just not getting the right pieces around them. Obviously, they made the Strome trade on the weekend, which we didn't even talk about. But when you trade Eberle for Strome and now Strome becomes Spooner, you're going backwards in life. And I think that's a lateral trade, but that just proves how little Ryan Strome has really done with the Edmonton Oilers. And now they fire the head coach in Hitchcock. So this is going to be real interesting. They play tonight. It's the only game in the NHL tonight, the Edmonton Oilers and the San Jose Sharks. So we'll get to see Kenny Hitchcock behind the bench, I assume, tonight. And all of a sudden, that's a much-watched game. Johnny and me talk about lots, including the St. Louis Blues firing their head coach just a few hours ago. All that and more coming up in this edition of the Sports Lodge.
You know what, Joey? Before we get out of here, just interesting. Do not be surprised if you see a marked improvement from Adam Larson, because I can think he can buy into a Ken Hitchcock system.
Well, defensively, I think everybody's going to improve for the Oilers.
Adam Larson to me seems like a Ken Hitchcock guy. So
I think Darnell Nurse seems like a Ken Hitchcock guy too. I think even Russell on the back end seems like a Ken Hitchcock kind of block shots, gritty kind of guy. I think it's going to really drastically change. I think Milan Lucic is going to do okay under Ken Hitchcock, right? It's just going to be interesting to see how McDavid and Draisaitl, to me, are going to, because they're a run and gun kind of offense with those two, right? And that is not the way Ken Hitchcock plays hockey, but he wins hockey games, right? Well, he did in the past, right? This guy's a 1,000-game winner, I think, but yeah, I know they didn't make the playoffs yet last year with Dallas, but this, to me, John, it's more of a stopgap too. First thoughts, as we do our first thought, it's a couple of years under Ken Hitchcock, some hard ass, let's like get grinding along here, and then we'll bring in a players coach the next couple of years. But Ken Hitchcock is a guy that teaches teams how to win, and I firmly believe he can get it done in Edmonton. Just don't know if it's going to be this year. Anything else, Johnny?
Nope, that's it.
All right. So, emergency session over. Here is this edition of the Sports Lodge. We got an intro and everything. Let's do it.
Welcome to the Sports Lodge Podcast. As always, here are your hosts, Joey Chapman and Jon Lodge.
And welcome inside the Sports Lodge. We have an intro, John. It's almost like we're professional. He's Jon Lodge. I'm Joey Chapman. Johnny, what do you think?
You've been working on this thing for a little bit, and I'm very pleased with it. Got to give a shout out to our boy Eldenakin, who voiced this thing for us. He's just got one of those crazy voices.
Yeah, his voice is so deep. We went to class with Eldon, and literally, the first day, we're like, "Oh, you're gonna be a guy on the radio." Yeah, that makes sense. You have the voice for it. Did not take long to figure out. All right, let's stop rambling and let's get into sports here on the Sports Lodge. It's November the 20th, and there's lots to get into. And Johnny, let's not waste any time. Topic number one, that Monday Night Classic. Oh my God. Two teams with very little losses. Two teams with such good offenses coming into this game. And Johnny, we see these games, we get these games previewed, and they never live up to the hype. On Monday, November 19th, the Rams and the Chiefs, they lived up to the hype.
Man, they blew by the over-under like they were NASCAR, man. That thing, the odds makers were just like, wow, I did not see that coming. They I think it was like 85 points or something they had the over-under at, and they went 105 last night.
I thought it was 56 even. I thought it was even worse than that.
I don't know. I thought it was like in the 80s, but
I believe it.
I knew those two teams were going to go off, and I said to my buddy, it was like, I couldn't wait. I had the beers out, and I said to him, this is either going to turn out one of two ways. It's going to be a knockdown, drag-out shootout, or it's going to be 40-6, and someone's just going to screw up. And we got the best of the best of the best, man. The third highest scoring game in the history of the league and the highest scoring Monday Night Football game ever.
Yeah, I thought the Chiefs-Patriots game, what was it, 52-49, ended up being, or something crazy like that, was probably going to be the highest scoring game of the year. Obviously, I didn't look far enough ahead in the schedule. This was absolutely ridiculous. Mahomes and Goff just putting on a show back and forth, just weapons galore, and it just didn't matter. Like you knew these teams defensively weren't going to be able to make the stops. It was just, was Jared Goff going to make mistakes? Was Patrick Mahomes going to make some mistakes? And ultimately, turnovers were the key factor in this ball game, John. But let's be honest here. These two kids played their balls off, and it's a real good place for the NFL right now if we can rely on these two going forward. And in my head, I really hated it, John, thinking it, but I was thinking, shit, this would be a real fun Super Bowl.
Yeah, it definitely would. I mean, you said the defenses weren't very proficient, but honestly, man, they were. The Kansas City Chiefs defense got a touchdown. The Kansas City Chiefs defense got a touchdown, return for a touchdown. The Los Angeles Rams got 2 returns for a touchdown, 3 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles recovered. It's just the offense outperformed the defense. So the defense was there. The Kansas City Chiefs defense led to 35 points. You get 35 points from your defense on a normal night in the league, and you're laughing your way to a victory. And they lost by 3 points, Joey. The defense showed up, but Mahomes and Goff showed out.
Well, Mahomes going 5-5 is just never a recipe, right? Like,
no.
As good as he was, this was really the first time you saw him trying to force things and make real bad decisions. And 5 interceptions it's almost Nate Peterman like, right? But
somewhere Nate Peterman's laughing.
Somewhere where Nate Peterman's laughing, but the guy will never throw 5 touchdowns. It's ridiculous, John. I know. I hear what you're saying. I can smell what you're cooking when you say these defenses played good. when you look at the turnovers, but when you have Goff throwing for 413 and you have Mahomes throwing them for 478, like, you're just not stopping people. You're just not making. I get it. I hear you, but and it doesn't matter today in the NFL because it's proven, it's seen, and we're going to see games like this in the future where it's just who can score the most points. And we saw it last year in the Super Bowl. I have a feeling we're going to see it this year in the Super Bowl, and this could be a real good rematch. And this was an instant Monday Night Classic.
Oh my! I had so much fun watching this game, Joey, and just if there is any sort of corrupt fixing in the NFL, you'll see this game happen as your Super Bowl because everybody enjoyed themselves and everybody wants to see the rematch. So one way or the other, I got to see these two teams go at it again, man. I am a Patriots fan, and I'm always for the Patriots being in the Super Bowl, but as a football fan, I want to see that again.
On the bright side, as a Patriots fan, the Chiefs lose this week, so that's good. As the Patriots lost, the Steelers found a way to win in Jacksonville. We'll get into that later on, so they move up in the AFC as well. But all in all, a good week for the idle Patriots. All right, John, let's move on to our number 2 story of the day. A firing in the NHL, and one I did not see coming, as Mike Yeo is gone in St. Louis. They have had enough of the replacement they brought in for Ken Hitchcock just a year and a half ago. And already the speculation is out there that Joel Quenneville, who was fired by the Blackhawks just a couple weeks ago, a former head coach in St. Louis and a former player in St. Louis, could be returning home. What do you think? Even though, well, Johnny, sorry, before I pass it to you, I should point out that they have named interim head coach,
Craig
Berube, the former head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers, who was fired just a year and a half ago as well, I believe. What do you think, John? Did this catch you off guard?
No, I seen it coming. St. Louis has been struggling. They're looking for a new identity. Mike Yeo was a stopgap between Kenny Hitchcock and just breaking that sort of long forever tie between Ken Hitchcock and the organization. Mike Yeo, I don't think, was ever the permanent solution there. And when people talk about Coach Q, he's having more fun pounding back shots at the Bears game. So I don't know if he's really planned on going behind the bench at this point. Maybe Mr. Berube is going to be taking over for the year, see what he can do with this squad. Maybe St. Louis sees the future and maybe tries to get a couple draft picks here and get a better team and then come with a fresh slate next year for Coach Q. Because I definitely see the ties to the city. I just don't think he's going to come in now almost a third the way through the season.
Well, all accounts is he says he would go back in. That's what all the insiders say, right? They're saying that Q would, at least if you believe their tweets, unless they're just Q's lying.
Well, no, they're
right?
Insiders for a reason,
right?
So.
Well, it's just I hear you, and obviously Q's having a good time, and that video outside Chicago Stadium is absolutely awesome, and that Bears game was another hell of a football game this weekend, and can't blame the guy. He's a fucking legend in Chicago. I'd be out there partying with everybody too. Why wouldn't you? The guy never has to pay for a drink in Chicago the rest of his life. He has 3 Stanley Cup rings. You might as well enjoy it a little bit. They made so many moves in the offseason, though, St. Louis did, though. They brought in Bozak. They brought in O'Reilly, who's lighting the world on fire. He's having a hell of a year playing on that top line with Tarasenko. And they bring in... And they have that defensive core with Parenko. Maybe they're looking to make a trade. I don't know, Johnny. It's just, to me, it's really, really weird. I know that they're struggling a little bit, but if you don't think Mike Yeo was ever going to be the guy, if you don't think he was ever going to be the future, why hire him at all? To me, it was always a weird situation because he was sitting on the bench waiting for Hitchcock to retire, right? And then they basically fired Hitchcock like midway through the year because they were struggling then and just gave the job to Yeo a year early. But everybody knew he was sitting there in the waiting, and it was always just a weird situation. Clearly it hasn't worked out. But when you're 8th place and the second last place team in the Western Conference, just above LA, look, you can get fired. And Mike Yeo, I think, Johnny, is going to have a real tough time getting another job in the NHL as a head coach after his stops in Minnesota and now St. Louis.
Yeah, he's going to have to go to the right of John Stevens and be an assistant coach somewhere and pay his dues again, and then possibly maybe get another to get another crack. But I don't believe in this guy as a head coach, nor in my opinion.
No, me neither. I agree. Sorry,
I didn't like I said, the whole reasoning behind St. Louis hiring him was literally just to get rid of that emotional tie to Ken Hitchcock. And I mean, say what you want, Hitch was there for he was tied to the organization, and he meant something. So you kind of need, it's like when you date a 10, you got to date a 3 afterwards to get the 10 out of your mind so that you can end up with the 6 or 7.
Huh?
That's a Dane Cook joke. So
it's okay. All right, Johnny. I was gonna as long as it's a Dane Cook joke, I have no further comment on that. Moving on.
Look it up.
Alrighty. Topic number 3. Talk, Johnny. Talk.
Okay, so as I look at my list here, of course, topic number 3 is what should maybe be most important to a lot of people in the Toronto area, in this area. The Leafs last night. I got to be honest about the Leafs game last night, Joey. After the first period, I kind of looked at my buddy and I was like, "Yep, I'm watching the football game. The Leafs are going to lose." And I wrote my boys off, and I learned my lesson, didn't I?
You absolutely did, because I was watching this hockey game basically start to finish. The football game was the flip option for me. I really was interested in this hockey game from the Maple Leaf standpoint, just not pretending like I'm a big fancy scout or anything, John, but everybody knows when you come back from the Western Conference swing, it's a tough game, and Columbus is a good team. Like, I think people forget Torts always makes his teams play a tough brand of hockey. They grind you, they hit you. And in that first period, I thought the Maple Leafs played pretty good. Especially in the first 10 minutes, they had Columbus on their heels. And then their first real mistake of the game, it ends up in the back of their net. And then a weird one at the end of the first period ends up in the back of the net. And they're down 2-0 after 1. And I don't blame you at all for flipping to the football game, but to me, this was a real gritty effort as they just dug in. Everybody. The fourth line with Levo and Ennis continues to look good. I don't know how much Freddie Gauthier really adds to the line. He's big. He stops things out there. But he doesn't necessarily contribute as much offensively. But they really grinded it out. They found a way to just dig in. And then at the end of the game, Zach Hyman gets just an ugly one in front of the net to win it. And John, a real grindy win as the Maple Leafs just continue to roll. That's 4 in a row now after sweeping California. Everybody's happy. Everybody's laughing. We're not talking about Willie Nylander. We're not talking about Austin Matthews not playing. We're talking about the Maple Leafs rolling here without 2 of their best players. And another gritty win. They play again on Thursday. They have to take on a Carolina at home. Like, that's a very winnable game. I know Carolina's been playing well this year, but this Maple Leaf team is first place in the Atlantic. They have to keep banking these points, and Bergeron's down for a long period of time now. Vasilevsky's down in Tampa. Buffalo's the team hanging on to the 3rd spot in the Atlantic. The Leafs just have to keep banking these wins, and if they can do that and they can stay ahead of the pack here and somehow get ahead of Tampa, it's going to be a hell of a year once Matthews and Nylander come back, because as we are 10 days out, I still firmly believe that's going to happen. Sorry, Johnny, that was a little long-winded to say the Maple Leafs played well last night.
I don't know if Nylander's coming back, my man. I don't think he is.
I still believe it.
It's going to be interesting. This is going to be the tensest 10 days and few episodes of the podcast we've had as Leaf fans. And yeah, I kind of did give up on the game, and it was simply because Columbus is such a good team, right? I seen them have a 2-0 lead, and they scored 2 kind of blah goals, and I was like, okay, so this is how this game's going to go. Yeah, and Freddie's not going to be on top of his game, and that's fine because you're allowed to do that every once in a while when you're the best goaltender in the league to date. So I got back to it, and it's funny you call it a gritty game. That goal, that pass from Kapanen, Marner, Tavares if that's gritty for the Leafs, I'll take that every night because that was some kind of goal, man.
Man, it's absolutely ridiculous watching Marner play out there. He just does things, and it's crazy. You don't even see it. He slows everything down. It's a lot of fun to watch, and like I said, the Maple Leafs take on Columbus Thursday night at home. They lead at least the Eastern Conference. Can I go to the league here? Are they still leading the league in? Hold on. Wow. Good day for my computer to be slow. I don't care if they're still leading the league, John, or not. They absolutely been playing well, and it's a good time to be a Maple Leafs fan, and we're going to keep rolling here. Moving on, number 4, let's get into off hockey, really, because there was a couple hockey stories that we needed to talk about, but we have not mentioned much going on from the NFL weekend, and the Green Bay Packers started off this week of football with a disappointing loss, and losing to Seattle on Thursday night in Seattle. Technically, like, you shouldn't look at it and be necessarily surprised, but they needed to win that football game if they wanted to stay in the hunt in the NFC North, and with Chicago winning, I just don't see a way Green Bay makes the playoffs this year, John. Do you?
No, and the Leafs are second, by the way, by an overtime loss to Nashville. But getting to the Green Bay game, it was a close game, 27-24, but it's just it was exactly what the commentators were saying on the broadcast. The winner of this game's playoffs hopes were still alive, and the Seattle Seahawks came out on top. I was chirping the 12th man a little bit on Twitter at the beginning of the game because the turnover and the 14-3 lead, and I was just like, "Oh, kind of quiet there, CenturyLink, can't hear you." And then, once again, got my little bit of a just desserts at the end of the game. CenturyLink had their way with the Green Bay Packers. Actually, did affect the game quite a bit, and it's really sad to see a talent like Aaron Rodgers just struggles so much on that team, and one's got to wonder if he finishes his career in green and gold.
Well, I think he's going to stay longer than the head coach, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah, he's got...
Right?
Sorry, as I die here a little bit, Mike McCarthy, I think, might be the casualty of this season.
Oh, I think he's done. I think they'll let him play out the year. Just out of respect, and, like, there's nothing you can do now. I don't think that you can do anything drastic enough to make the playoffs in any way, shape, or form. So just live with it and see what happens with Aaron Rodgers and company. I might shut down Aaron Rodgers, get that knee healthy for the long term, but you never know. Go Seattle, I guess. They still got a shot. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs either, but really just tough for Green Bay.
We're in a world where the Cowboys have a shot to make the playoffs, okay? So I think Seattle's still in there somewhere.
It's true. You say that November 20th, there's not a lot of teams that are officially out of the playoffs. There's so much that can happen and in this crazy game that we love so much. Let's move on. What was my number 4 topic? Because I don't have it in order in front of me, which is
Jacksonville.
Silly.
That was quite the game.
It. Oh my God, John. That was... Jacksonville-Pittsburgh was the weirdest football game and just the most disappointed I've been as a football fan this year. I don't know if you were watching it, but...
I watched the first half, and Big Ben made me turn the channel.
It was so bad, right? Like, that game that had Romo and Nance, and just, they absolutely were brutal in the first half of that game. What was it, 9-0 or 6-0 or 6-9?
9-0, I think.
After 30 minutes of football, Big Ben looked like you literally couldn't tell the difference between Big Ben and Blake Bortles out there.
Yeah, it was really bad, really weird. Jalen Ramsey was the best player of the half.
Absolutely, he was.
He was absolutely the number one corner this entire game that he showed to be. And if it weren't for a last second quarterback sneak by Roethlisberger, the Jaguars would have won this game. It was really weird, and I stopped watching after halftime because. And I mean, I just went out because the 1:00 games that I was able to watch this week were just hot trash.
Yeah, they weren't good at 1:00. Moving on to our other 1:00 game, that's actually what I wanted to talk about, was Lamar Jackson because he was one of the things I was like actually excited to watch this week on week one, to find a way to see if the Ravens were going to change their offense, how much it was going to look different. And then when Flacco was just not playing at all, when Flacco was just a healthy or whatever knee, or whatever they bullshitted it up, he could have been playing out there, I'm sure of it. And Lamar Jackson just ran right through the Bengals offense. They completely just quieted them down. Hugh Jackson comes in from the Browns, supposed to be working with that defense, not working very well, as it was crazy looking at the stat line. To me, John, just Lamar Jackson, first drive, run, touchdown. What? That's not today's NFL. Did you not watch football Monday night? Like, that's not the way
I was
things are
upset.
done.
I couldn't see this game.
It was crazy. Yeah, like I was streaming it on my computer just so I could see the experiment. It's weird. It's a weird experiment, but this kid's got some talent. You hear? I don't know if you heard Marvin Lewis's comments after the game, John, but basically, like, you can't run forever as a quarterback. Like, these guys get hurt, and he's right. If you decide that's the way you want to play football, it's not going to last very long. I.e., Robert Griffin. I.e., like, there's just so many guys, right?
For everyone you can mention, I can give you a Patty Mahomes. I can give you a Marcus Mariota. I can give you a Mitchell Trubisky.
Well,
Mitchell Trubisky leads
he's
the
hurt
league.
too.
I can give you a Cam Newton.
Hurt? Well, not been. Well, hold on. You can't give me Cam Newton and Marcus Mariota. Those two are very different quarterbacks.
No, running quarterbacks. Just
I know, but like
quarterbacks who
Marcus Mariota's hurt all the time too, man. Like, don't pretend he's not. Mariota's hurt every game.
No, but we're
He's
talking
fighting
about
something right now.
like guys who don't run anymore because they can't, and these guys are just. I don't know. I don't think.
Well,
I think it's a new breed of quarterback.
I
it's
hear
a new
you,
game.
but none of those guys aren't doing run, right? Like everybody else is throwing the ball. They just didn't.
A little, yeah, a
they
majority.
Didn't seem to trust Lamar Jackson throwing the football. They claim they're going to get him involved more. It was weird to watch, and I kind of feel bad for Joe Flacco, but it's the beginning of the end.
I don't.
Well, he's making his money, right?
I swear to God, that Super Bowl ring got him that contract. He's been a pedestrian quarterback and never been anything better. Lamar Jackson deserves his shot. The dude only missed 6 passes. 13 for 19, 150 yards. Yeah, he had the one INT, but he had one week of first team offense. Give him some time to get used to this. He also had 117 rushing yards. The quarterback averaged 4.3 yards per carry.
No, it was effective. Don't get me wrong. It worked very well.
I think the Ravens need something like this. I think it'll work, but only time will tell, obviously.
And you know what? I like them having Robert Griffin as the backup, because if Lamar Jackson goes down, just do the same thing with RG3. Just run him into the dirt until he gets hurt too. Like, maybe that's the best way to do it. Stockpile these quarterbacks, so you got kind of this 3 of the same kind of type, and hope they all stay healthy, or hope you can get one healthy through the year. Right? I don't know. It's a whole new world in the NFL, John, and we're just living in Lamar Jackson. Let's move on to basketball, John.
Can I just...
Yeah, go.
I got one more football.
Sure.
So we never talked about, we didn't get the chance to talk about a couple weeks ago about the gruesome injury to 49ers running back's forearm. We had another gruesome injury yesterday, Alex
Sunday,
Smith. And this poor man broke his tibia and his fibula, tried to get up, man. His arm or his leg at one point looked like the rainbow on the Lucky Charms box.
I haven't watched it.
It was nasty.
I have not
watched it. Nasty. He had to go to surgery immediately.
Yeah, well, I guess you probably didn't need to, but when you're an NFL quarterback, you get to go to a surgery.
There are arteries and shit in there, bro.
I guess so. Man,
that was a bad one.
I have not watched it. I will not watch it. It's just... and you hear Theismann tweeting out, it's like, oh, that's exactly how my leg looked. Like, it's just...
It was so bad, man. It was
gross.
So bad. I feel bad for Alex Smith. I really do.
I feel bad for the Washington Redskins, too, because I thought they had a real opportunity here, as everybody seems to in that NFC East. And I know that Adrian Peterson and maybe Colt McCoy can ride this thing out, but you never know. Stranger things have happened, but that's going to be an uphill battle for them in the capital down to the south. Anything else football-wise, Johnny,
No, that's
that you
it.
wanted to
I
surprise
had
me
to get
with?
that in. That's
No,
it.
no worries at all. Let's move on because the Raptors are playing the Magic tonight. The Raptors have been playing some pretty good basketball of late, but they've also stumbled here, John. And Kawhi Leonard obviously kicked that ball out of bounds the other day. At the end of the day, they're 13-4 in the first place in the NBA in the Eastern Conference. Trap game, what do you expect from the Raptors here tonight, or do you just expect them to take Orlando and just really dummy them here, as they've just been a mediocre team all year long, but have won 3 in a row heading into tonight's game?
We are playing. Yeah, it's at the Amway Center, so it's going to be in Orlando, and I don't expect much out of the Magic tonight. I think I expect a state